Hello, my friends. Welcome to the next episode of Bible and Revelations. I do this for Ozark Hunger Relief. I'm trying to raise money to start an open office to feed the poor and have kind of a resource center there. So the city I live in is below the poverty line and below the educational limits of most cities. So I'd like to have like a resource center there to help people out and get them higher paying jobs, show them the possibilities. So this is episode 38, Revelations 20, where Satan will be bound for 1,000 years, and he'll come out with a vengeance after that. Revelations 20. And I saw an angel coming down out of heaven with the key of the abyss and a great chain in his hand. And he seized the dragon, the original serpent, who is the devil and called Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He hurled him into the abyss and shut it and sealed it over him, that he might not mislead the nations any more until the 1,000 years were ended. After these things he must be let loose for a little while. And I saw thrones, and there were those who sat down on them, and power of judging was given them. Yes, I saw the souls of those executed with the axe for the witness they bore to Jesus, and for speaking about God, and those who had worshipped neither the wild beast nor its image, who had not received the mark upon their forehead and upon their hand. And they came to life and ruled as kings with the Christ for 1,000 years. Wow. That is great. The rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Happy and holy is anyone having part in the first resurrection. Over these, the second death has no authority. But they will be priests of God and of Christ, and will rule as kings with him for the 1,000 years. Now, as soon as the 1,000 years have been ended, Satan will be let out of his prison, and he will go out to mislead those nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war. The number of these is as the sand of the sea. And they advanced over the breadth of the earth, and encircled the camp of the holy ones, and the beloved city. But fire came down out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil, who was misleading them, was hurled into the lake of fire and sulfur, where both the wild beast and the false prophet already were. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. And I saw a great white throne, and the one seated on it. From before him the earth and the heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and the scrolls were opened. Let me go back a little bit here. I saw a great white throne, and the one seated on it. From before him the earth and heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. So heaven and earth goes away, and nothing is there in space but the white throne. And I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and scrolls were opened. Okay, so the earth and heaven goes away. God, either Yahweh or Jesus, is sitting on the throne, and then all the dead come up before him, and the scrolls are opened. But another scroll was opened. It is the scroll of life. And the dead were judged out of those things written in the scrolls according to their deeds. And the sea gave up those dead in it, and death and Hades gave up those dead in them. And they were judged individually according to their deeds. And death and Hades were hurled into the lake of fire. This means the second death, the lake of fire. Furthermore, whoever was not found written in the book of life was hurled into the lake of fire. Okay, let's go over the notes of this. I have a book here, has some notes on Revelations. Oh, that's Philippians. Okay. The resurrection and the great white throne judgment. Let the heavens declare his righteousness, for God himself is judge. As it says in Psalms 50, verse 6. God is not a judge, but judge. As creator of the earth and its inhabitants, he alone has the prerogative to pass judgment on both. God has exercised that prerogative more than once in the past. The worldwide flood that destroyed all but Noah and his family, the judgment on the pride of the people building the Tower of Babel, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and other judgments on nations and individuals. The Bible warns individuals that they have only one chance to be reconciled to God before they face judgment. And as it is appointed for men to die once, but after this, the judgment, as it says in Hebrews 9, verse 27. The New Testament describes at least 3 future judgments. The judgment seat of Christ, like it says in 1 Corinthians 3, verses 11 through 15. The judgment of nations, described by Jesus, as it says in Matthew 25, verses 31 through 46. And the great white throne judgment of Revelation 20, this one. The time of judgment seat of Christ occurs following the rapture. Okay, so the great white throne that heaven and earth fled away from, and then all the dead rose, that was Jesus on the white throne. And they will be judged according to their deeds. Everything is recorded in scrolls. And if your name wasn't on the book of life, you go straight to the fiery pit or hell, I guess it is. The time of the judgment seat of Christ occurs following the rapture, while the church is with Christ in heaven. During the 7-year tribulation on earth. Okay, so they're saying the great white throne judgment is taking place during the 7-year tribulation. And what starts the 7-year tribulation is the abomination of desolation, when the Antichrist or the false prophet, the Antichrist is like the opposite of God. The false prophet is like the opposite of Jesus. And the so anyway, so the Antichrist or the false prophet go to the new temple, which hasn't been built yet, but there are plans to build it in Jerusalem. Once that temple is built, we're very close. The temple will be built. There's already plans for it. They got the robes designed. They got the furniture designed. They're getting ready to build it. Once that temple is built and they start sacrificing bulls or goats, I think it's bulls, then that sets the stage. Because the Antichrist takes power then and goes there and stops and destroys the temple to stop the sacrifices. That's called the abomination of desolation. That day starts the 7-year tribulation. It might be 3.5 years. It's either 3.5 years or 7 years of tribulation left. So that's when the great white throne judgment takes place in heaven of all the previous dead. The great white throne judgment will not resemble the time of the judgment seat of Christ occurs following the rapture, while the church is with Christ in heaven during the 7-year tribulation on earth. The judgment of the nations takes place at the end of the tribulation. Okay, so the great white throne judgment of the people is taking place during the tribulation. When the tribulation ends, then the judgment of the nations takes place at the end of the tribulation, just before the millennial kingdom starts. When Christ was destroyed, the armies of the world that had attempted to destroy Israel, as it says in Revelation 19, verse 11 through 21, when Christ was destroyed, the armies of the world that had attempted to destroy Israel